So my name's Greg. I'm an engineer here at Aptos, and this is Move Monday. I'm going to then go to David to introduce himself next.
Hey, David here, also a software engineer at Aptos. I spend a lot of my time breaking things, and every now and then I share something out that's pretty cool. Just one of the cool things that we're wrapping up that we'd like to talk to you folks in a short bit of time is, well, twofold actually. One is we've got objects already in mainnet as of last week, so that was pretty exciting. If you don't know what objects are, well, they make everything so much easier to do and move. Basically, everything is now possible. The second part that we're also really excited about is that we're working on a new token standard, Token V2. So if you head over to our AIP repository, which we can share out later today. In fact, we have these pretty frequent updates about upcoming new features in Aptos. And so this is going to be Token V2. A lot of feedback has been given by creators, by owners, by developers about the limitations of the existing token standard. And we basically said, threw everything away and said, what can we do to start from scratch? We found objects. Token V2 is basically token objects. We think you'll love them. We love them. Everybody should love them. Therefore, you love them too. And we're looking forward to getting the ecosystem excited about that. But before we go too fast, we need feedback from you to make sure we're doing great. The last part that we're really, really excited about is that Greg should have called out is guess who's going to be, oh shoot, Greg's going to call it out. So I'm done. Bye.
I usually wait till the end to do that because not everyone is here. But yes, I, David, and I, and Kevin will be at Consensus in Austin for our event in Austin. Do you know the details about it? It's going to be fun. I think I've seen some demos of like there's going to be Aptos branded burgers or burger buns, even like the pretty cool. I don't know.
From what I understand, it's make your own swag, make your own food, but it's going to be fun. It's not going to be hard work. If you want to make me a burger, I'll eat it. It'll be great. But we'll call this out at the end of the show as well, and probably next week, because to Greg's point, who knows who's here now and who knows who will be here at the end of the show, but we want everybody to be there with us in Austin at a consensus event. I think it's towards the end of the week on a Thursday of next week. But the rest of the details are going to be forthcoming later this week from the Aptos handle itself on Twitter. So be paying attention, and we'll definitely share out more details next week.
And now to our guest for today, I'm going to start with Notify. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. My name is Nimesh. I'm co-founder, CTO of Notify. We provide on and off-chain messaging tools for dApps, everything from developer-centric SDKs to low-code community manager portals.
Awesome. And Jay, you next.
Yeah, I'm Jay, part of the business development and growth team here at Notify Network. I know Nimesh kind of did a quick little TLDR on who we are at Notify. But yeah, pretty excited to be on this Move Monday AMA. We're personally very bullish on Aptos and the Move ecosystem as a whole. So yeah, very excited to chat with you guys here today.
And Chris from Dialect.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Excited to be here. So I'm Chris, founder, CEO at Dialect, and can very briefly describe that Dialect is a mobile-first wallet, chat, and Web3 content platform. We're live today on iOS and Google Play, so check us out. In Dialect, you can send and receive messages via DMs and group chats like you do in Web2, but with Web3 and with wallet messaging, you can create new experiences that are not previously possible. And these are things that we're pioneering like smart messages, NFT chat stickers, which is kind of on the social side, and a bunch of other stuff. We launched about a year ago, and we launched as developer tools and spent a lot of 2022 working with projects across various ecosystems. We were live on day one when Aptos mainnet went live, and that was really incredible and fun for us. But what we realized is we wanted to lean in and create a mobile-first experience to really show what Web3 messaging can be. So we're a suite of developer tools around things like smart messages and whatnot, as well as a really like first-class consumer experience on Web3.
Awesome. So both of you guys build notifications for Web3 platforms, and I just wanted to dive right in and ask all of you, how do you see the space in notifications in Web3, and how can we make it better for the average Web2 user who doesn't necessarily know everything about Web3 to learn more in that space?
Yeah, I think I can go ahead and take a stab at this first. Personally, just my viewpoints on this, I believe that we need more Web2 like experiences, especially on the user experience side, directly related to communications. In order for us to reach and essentially get to mass adoption, we need to see a lot of the Web2 standards we see in place, just like, native customer support on dApps, real-time alerts and communication, just alerting users and Web3 degens, hey, you got liquidated, or hey, you're about to get liquidated, get back on your position, add up onto your margin, just to prevent that type of negative user experience. So personally, I feel like we still have ways to go, but as that user experience kind of catches up to what we see in the Web2 landscape, we'll definitely start to onboard more and more normies, as we say, and more retail investors as well too. So definitely bright road ahead, in my opinion. I think we have a lot of ways to work towards, but I think that's the great part about having companies like Notify and Dialect building towards the same solution at the end of the day, which is inevitably leading to mass adoption.
Go ahead, Chris. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with everything Jay just shared. I think notifications are just a really critical part of customer acquisition, engagement, retention. And a lot of the evolution of our thinking through 2022, as we partnered with tons of projects and heard feedback from them, was this is like a really critical missing piece. And so that's right. Like, early stages, we felt like, giving a user the ability to opt in via email, text message, maybe Telegram, various Web2 channels opens that line of communication direct to mobile where like you get a notification on the lock screen of your phone while you're out and about. Just really bridges the gap. And it's kind of crazy that it's like 2023 and this is still a relatively new thing in crypto. I agree with Jay that we're also very much in early innings here. What's exciting to us is like where Web3 takes it to the next level. And that's with things like the smart message, which let you execute any smart contract right from the message. In Web3, you carry this wallet with you everywhere. Every single dApp that you connect your wallet to or mobile app that you sign in with has the ability to execute actions from any other app because of this like universal user table. And so for the last 3 months or so since the launch of our mobile app, our journey has been how do we drive engagement and entertainment directly in a Web3 native mobile experience where I can like send and receive tokens or do any of these other things directly from the message. And that's where we see like, so yes, I agree, we're very early days in this whole problem space, but we also have the opportunity to leapfrog Web2 and create these whole new experiences that really bring, if you say like acquisition, retention, engagement, it's the goal of notifications and messaging in general. With things like smart messages, you can bring the action right to the user's fingertips, right in the message. And we think that that's like just makes for experiences not even really possible in Web2 or not nearly as easily possible. And that's like why we're so bullish on Web3 messaging and excited about this problem space.
This is really cool, and I completely agree. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you're just kind of have to pull the blockchain to see what's going on, it doesn't really work. But the flip side that I'm kind of curious is there's such a vast amount of space. How do you make sure, like, how do you determine what notifications, what are the processes for notifications? Like, if I have something that I care about, is it possible for me to go into either of your frameworks and say, I want to get notifications about this, and can I share them with other people? What's the process here for kind of like making this pervasive?
I can take a quick stab at that. I think this is as much an interesting design space as it is an engineering space. And if you look at the Web2 learnings, like we just say, okay, what does the problem space of notifications and engagement look like in Web2? There's these massive businesses where like they're not building the protocol. They're not like SMS or SMTP. They're like Braze or Twilio before that, where everything is focused on delivering the right notification at the right time. So from a design perspective, I think first and foremost, what we've loved to do is work with the partner projects that we've integrated with and find out what are the right kinds of messages that you want to send to your users and when do you want to send them. And being very thoughtful about that up front, I think, is ultimately the number one goal, is like product first perspective of like, what do we want to engage? What do these projects want to engage their users on? Then problem number two is, yes, like, how do you do it? And I think at the end of the day, there's almost an irreducible complexity of like, every project has its own potential protocol, use cases within that protocol. And the goal of the developer tools is to make it as easy as possible to say, given my use case, I want to like be able to like, set things up and trigger this notification at the right time. And that's usually like a little, like just giving people a good framework either for monitoring or event-driven triggering is really the goal there, where you try to be as the infrastructure, try to be as agnostic as possible around what that is.
Brad, I want to add a little bit to that, and I agree with everything Chris said. I would say also the one thing to call out is the position from the user standpoint, where after we go work with the dApps to actually figure out what notifications really would you consider important that you want to offer to your users, and then go over to the user side and make sure that there's a user experience that allows those individuals to say, look, the dApp says that these notifications are absolutely important, but really this one is actually important for me. And so I'd like to route it to to my email, for example, right? And all the other notifications, I really don't want to get spammed by them. And so really we want to also give the control and power to the user as well to control exactly what notifications they get and where.
Awesome. That was great insight. And I love the fact that you guys are exploring that different paradigms and frameworks. So one of the things I'm kind of curious is where we currently stand in at least Aptos, like Chrome extension browser wallets are the dominant framework. Where do you think we need to push like the user identity and management so that it's more effective, so they're getting like your notifications are surfacing in the best places possible, or do you think we've already gotten that? Do we have enough access to the various different mediums to where we can get users to be interactive in a way that's meaningful to them?
Yeah, I think what we've seen, especially on Aptos side of things, and just general as well, is that users like to receive a lot of these notifications and a lot of these alerts sent directly to their SMS and email. We're seeing users like to kind of just directly opt into those type of alerts, go out, touch grass, enjoy their everyday life, and then still be able to retain and interact and engage back onto their favorite protocols, especially on the Aptos side of things. That's primarily what we've seen. A lot of users don't necessarily care about, doxing, because obviously we're in the Web3 space and just the general ethos is just to be against doxing. But users tend to prioritize just staying up to date with their holdings, their positions, NFT trades, whatever the case may be. They like to kind of opt into those alerts sent directly to their mobile devices, or even email is what we've kind of seen on our end.
Yeah, I would certainly second that. And if I could make a request, I would simply say I think the biggest opportunity in Web3 right now across any ecosystem is more mobile native applications. And so in addition to the Web2 channels above, which I think are like really like huge user experience improvement over, like looking back at like 2020, 2021, like not being able to be communicated with at all, but really excited to see mobile native as a thing. And we've got hurdles all over the place. Like our experience building Dialect for release on the iOS App Store has been a very difficult journey in terms of making sure we can deliver the experiences we want. So for all the like dApp developers out there, if you think your project could be mobile, just keep up the good fight and let's try to build that mobile first future together.
Yeah, just to add on to what Chris just said there, I definitely agree with everything he said. I think the future is definitely mobile. If you look at the current age group, if you look at Gen Z, if you look at just millennials in general, they're growing up with a phone and a handheld device in hand as they grow up. So just like the future outlook just definitely looks like the future will be mobile. So as crypto and Web3 is more enabled for mobile development, I think we'll see way more mass adoption and just more people onboarding, and also onboarding easier as well too. Because I think one of the biggest barriers in place today in Web3, just to get newer faces over, is the actual barrier of easeability and usage, to actually set up a wallet, actually get onto that DApp. It's pretty daunting and overwhelming, especially for someone who's a first timer just coming into the space. So just tearing down those barriers, and just making it an easier gate for entry will definitely assist. And I think that's where, like Chris said, mobile comes a big part and a big play into that.
On the mobile thing, I have a question. As someone who has all of their notifications completely turned off, what would be the forcing function here for me to want to turn them on in a way that I could tailor it that it doesn't seem intrusive? So I have all of my stuff turned off because I don't like being pinged 800 times a minute, and I haven't found a good way to tailor that specifically where I only get the things that I need. Have you guys thought about that at all?
Yes.
Why not just say, if David, notify? That would be awesome. Anyway, just trolling you up, Austin. Love you.
David's the only one I have him on for.
I love it. And Austin, you're getting at what we think is the heart of the problem here, which is what I just heard is you said everything, which is not just Web3. It's literally everything, all Web2. I think we are now in a world, and we talk about this at Dialect all the time, especially because we have a mobile app that is delivering notifications, like native push notifications. It is one of the principal parts of product design today, is what you send your notifications about. And I really like the point earlier that Jay or maybe Nimesh brought up, which is, talk to the end users. Like, start with the dApps, but then make sure that they're hearing the right things from their users. The burden is on all of us to make sure that we're engaging in the right way. 10 years ago, getting a push notification at all was kind of a new concept. So everyone's like, just turn them on. And today it's about if you don't design your notifications right, then you lose the ability to communicate with that user. Because ultimately, Austin, I don't think you're alone. Like, a lot of people just say, you know what, I'm tired of hearing from this. I'm just going to fully turn it off. And now you have no way to get to that user.
Yep. And you know what was a trigger for a lot of this? BlockFi, or not BlockFi, it was Blockfolio back in the day. You used to be able to send push notifications if you were subscribed to a specific token. And just so many projects just completely abused that, where I would just remove it from my portfolio. And it was so annoying.
And the good news,
and I think that was a good entry.
Yeah, the silver lining here is ultimately the party that loses is the dApp that's spamming, or let's say like the project. And I shouldn't even say dApp, the application at all, because there's tons of Web2 offenders as well. Yeah, go ahead.
How do you guys feel about when you're doing email, right? I actually don't even look at my work email because I have thousands of emails, especially from GitHub. It's hard to get to the point where you can actually get the notifications you want. So would you guys think that maybe like a more Web2 approach where you have more rich filtering functions and being able to choose the specific things from a user perspective is a better way then? Because most of the easiest way to turn them off is you just turn them off entirely on your phone for one application, and you just ignore them then.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
And I'm going to pause here because go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, absolutely. I think, and that comes back to allowing the user to have full control over what notifications they get in a more granular sense, not just, hey, DAppX wants to send me, or allow DAppX to send me notifications. No, it should be, hey, allow DAppX to send me general announcements. Okay, maybe that isn't really important to me, so I'm going to turn it off. Sorry, DAppX. But you know what? If DAppX has something important about, let's say, my account, right? Yes, please send me that and send it to not just my email, but send it to my phone immediately, right? But if there is, maybe something where I'm making transactions on some space, right? All right, I don't want that going to my phone. I don't want that to spam me there. But you know what? It really is nice to have a receipt trail, right? Like in your email. It's just, I know it's a really old school way of doing it, but that's just, each user is different, at least for some of our users. Maybe they want to use their email for all of their transactions just as a log there, so that then they can just quickly on their phone open up their email, search through. All right, yep, that makes sense. I made that transaction there. That was it. And so again, it's just allowing the user to have that full control and granularity of turning on and off each individual type of notification. I think that's really one of the keys that we have to focus on.
Yeah, I really like that, and actually brings up another interesting point about notifications, Nimesh, which is like I mean, obviously not all notifications are created equal, but there's like really high level broad categories. And at the very least, there's like the thing I need to know in the moment because it's timely and important. And I think kind of the point you're getting at, Nimesh, is like maybe that's text, maybe that's Telegram, one of these that's like really like I'll see it right away. Because open rates on text messages are way higher than open rates on emails. But then there's also the kind of like passive receipt style notifications where like I don't need to know it in the moment, but I want a permanent record of the actions that I've taken or similar. And that could be email, it could be in-app where like you just click the little notification bell and you can kind of see that record when you happen to be on the site. And I think being nuanced and thoughtful about those distinctions is really, really important. One other
if I'm about to get liquidated, I want to get a text immediately. It's like,
I
don't want an email.
Sort of like I'm so glad I can see my liquidation history is like obviously less important than oh shoot I gotta like But there's tons of use cases for notifications where they're exactly what Nimesh was saying, which is like I just need the record. I want to be able to see it whenever I would need to bring it up. One other quick point I would make here on this. I think the language, Nimesh, you might have been using this language around letting the user choose. I really love that. And I think Web3 tech, like Web3 primitives make that, like provide some promise to us being able to take that to a new level, not possible in Web2. And early days right now, but if you look at like a Web3 native protocol, like my email is wrecked. Like any email address that I've had for any meaningful amount of time, I just get spammed tons and tons of stuff. And you can do advanced filtering and whatnot. You have like algorithmic stuff to like put stuff in the spam folder. That's all helped. Where we think Web3 can come in and make a big difference is in by financializing cold inbound. And so one of the things that we're designing today at Dialect with the Dialect messaging protocol is that if I haven't opted in to hear from a business or another user, if they want to get my attention, they might need to put a bid of some kind on the message itself. And this we think is a potential way to like really dramatically improve signal to noise in messaging platform that is uniquely Web3 of being able to like inherent financialization of Web3, like really bring that kind of thing. And of course, if we know each other and we want to chat, like of course we should just be able to chat for free. But if someone is trying to get my attention, a business or otherwise, they might need to put up some funds to get that first connection. And then this could hopefully make, and this aligns incentives where like dApps or businesses can be more thoughtful about the messages that they send and the notification use cases. So just coming full circle back to your point, Austin, of like, how can we design a system that's truly Web3 and uses Web3 tech to like improve the problem where like you suddenly end up in a world where it's like, you know what, actually most of the notifications I get, I do want to get, and they are value add and they are useful. So that's just something we're super excited about. Not live today in Dialect, but it's on our roadmap.
Haseeb from Dragonfly was just tweeting about this. I'm looking at the tweet right now. A day ago about trying to be able to filter his emails where it's only people in his contacts. Yeah. So that way he could have a section where he's like, I know these people. This is probably something I want to reply to. And then
that's super cool.
Ignore the rest. And as far as what I'm seeing right now, he wasn't able to find a way to do that. So it seems like there's a massive opportunity there as well.
So I kind of want to shift gears back a bit to the technical aspect of it because I'm an engineer and a nerd like that. And I was kind of curious from both of your perspectives, like what is the biggest challenge for onboarding new use cases, for connecting to the dApps and getting the dApps to be effective on Web3 identities? Because we've spent a lot of time talking about like SMS and email, but that's not necessarily attached to your Web3 identity. So I'm kind of curious how both your organizations are looking at those opportunities.
I would say, I mean, to start off with, I would say standardization is really missing here, right? Because I think everyone here in the space is trying to figure out what is the right experience, right? That we want to first foremost bring forward, and then second is also obviously the security around the PII that might be shared, and then also the types of notifications, right? Because every notification is completely different. And so I would say where we are severely lacking in this space is a solid standard that we could all sort of rally around, and then allow dApps to actually implement, to then have one confirmed way of sharing data or say triggering notifications.
Really like that. I think maybe there's 2 points I'd make here. I'll start with the more technical one, which is, in general, when you're trying to send a notification about an event, you have 2 ways you can go about it. You can either run a service that monitors for the event, and when it detects the event, it sends the message. Or the actual runtime of the event itself, like let's say you're getting liquidated and that actual on-chain liquidation action is happening. In that runtime, if you could just like send a message from there, it like 10x reduces the amount of code. And I think both the Notify team as well as the Dialect team, like when we were sort of designing our systems, we've spoken with various folks of like, it would be so much easier, and not all events fit this model, but it would be, or not all, like kind of notifications fit this model, but it'd be really nice if we could just straight up just like, send an email directly from the event in the runtime on chain. But obviously that poses questions of like, can't make HTTP requests out to like Web2 SaaS directly from a blockchain. You obviously, like, a lot of that information is publicly accessible, so you shouldn't store the emails on chain. There's a lot of technical limitations there, and I think the result is we've built the kind of monitoring tooling, which powers a lot of what we see today. That's like, I have a totally separate runtime that is in, say, an off-chain Web2 service that's monitoring the chain, sees the event for a given public key, and then says, okay, in my private, totally airtight, secure Web2 system, I now have an email I can set, like an email address on file where I can send the message. That I think is like nuts and bolts, like one of the hardest problems I think historically, and that sort of turns into more developer time. And that ultimately means probably like a little less usage of notifications. And so, as I mentioned at the top of the call, like we were really obsessed with trying to bring the development time down as much as possible. Actually, you know what? I'll just stick to that one use case.
Yeah, I think that definitely having these kinds of frameworks for building notifications helps a lot. And one thing I'm actually interested about is, right, with Web2, you store all of your configuration for these things in some sort of server somewhere, and it's handled on that side. Versus Web3, we have this great space where you can actually attach your identity with the configuration that you want. Either of you guys, what's your view on the trade-off there between the Web3 space of storing things out in the open on chain versus storing it locally in a server for your specific products?
Yeah, I can take this first. So when we first started off, we really, really wanted to have something where we have all of our user preferences, everything stored on chain, essentially just go fully decentralized, right? What we quickly found was with that comes the trade-off of user experience. And not only user experience, but again, there's no real tried and true way of also saying, hey, this information here, if we stored it like this, right, is completely 100% safe, right? And as we know in security, nothing is 100%, right? It's just we don't really have a benchmark yet of what really is safe to put out there in what type of model that, again, it could live there now forever, and everyone has access to it to continuously attack. So we wanted to first and foremost make sure the user experience was great. And so that, unfortunately, in today's world, sort of drew us back to having that PII and settings stored off-chain. at least for right now, until we have a model where we can push it on chain in a way that is very easily accessible. And second, we know 100% that, okay, this is secure.
Yeah, the thing I would add to this, I agree with all that, and I think there's just no question today that there is not a strong user demand to putting emails and whatnot on chain. So strongly agree with Nimesh on that. What we're trying to do at the end of the day is just provide great experience to users. I'd say more broadly, it's like I think this latest bull market switched into a bear market as we've been building products. I feel like broadly in the Web3 ecosystem, we realize not everything needs to be on chain. There is a second point I'd love to make here on this question of contact information. Again, the like brilliance of Web3 is there's not a like in Web2, I sign up, I'm a user entry in some random database with like a user ID. And then ultimately, if I sign in with Google, maybe I've given permission to see my email, or at some point I add my email and my phone number. But in Web2, there's always a two-step process of a random row in a Postgres DB for a user ID, and then like slap an email on it at some point. The brilliance of Web3 messaging is with this universal user table, your user ID is how you are messaged. Like, if we can get broad adoption of a Web3 messaging protocol, this completely changes the game. And what that means is I, as a user, can spin up a burner to go do a thing, and I can get messages directly to that thing, scoped to the concerns of that wallet, like the things that I did with that wallet, without ever having to involve a separate identity. And we're insanely excited. That's just like one of a dozen things that we think is incredibly cool about Web3 messaging. The challenge, though, is there is no actual ubiquitous adopted inbox today. So in the way that everybody's got an email address and people use Gmail or similar, everyone's got a phone, they've got their text messages. That does not exist in Web3. So the actual like Herculean lift here is to get the adoption of an inbox. And then once that happens, whether it's distributed or not, I think there's really cool things about interoperable inboxes as well that we're insanely excited about. But once that begins to get
and I think it'd be great for all of us to build that standard together. But I want to move to a different topic now. I want to allow both of you guys to talk about your roadmaps, and then we're going to do Q&A and bring people up to ask questions. Sound good?
Absolutely.
Notify. You want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. Just speaking on our roadmap, we have a few cool things planned for this year. Just over the last few months, we actually expanded a lot of our SDK support to support multiple different EVM chains. Just at the end of last year as well, too, we were also live with Aptos during mainnet. So super excited about that accomplishment there. And then pushing out our support with Pontum Wallet and Topaz and the other great platforms building on Aptos as well. And then over the last few months, as I said, we've just expanded over supporting 13 total different chains at the moment. And then also looking to add on to multiple different other chains, just essentially supporting, as we've mentioned, multiple different dApps across every ecosystem with the hopes of just elevating, enhancing the user experience that we see in Web3 today. And then, inevitably increasing mass adoption as well too. So we have currently we have our consumer side on Notify.network. We have our dashboard where just an independent user can come on there, input any wallet, and monitor those positions. So if you have an interesting whale, if you're a true degen in the Web3 space and you wanted to monitor whether this guy buys, flips, or sells, or whatever the case may be, you can actually input that Ethereum or Solana wallet address and then stay up to date with what that whale is actually transacting. And then you can also even stay up to date with your own wallets and balances. So if you're constantly getting paid in crypto or whatever, or even if you're eligible and you're an active airdrop farmer as well, you can get constant notifications and alerts. That's our consumer side of things. And then on top of that, we do allow and give complete power to the user to control their own spam. So you never have to worry about being bombarded with notifications. With a simple click of a button, you can turn on or off any sort of on or off chain alert we've set on our dashboard. And then on the business side of things, we're currently rolling out a few different exciting integrations with multiple different top tier dApps across multiple different ecosystems that we're excited to announce in the coming weeks. So definitely stay up to date with Notify Network. we're going to be pushing out some pretty exciting announcements in the coming weeks. But yeah, very excited and looking forward to what we have in store.
Awesome. And now, Chris, go for it.
Yeah, on the dialect side, we are laser focused on the problem I was just mentioning a moment ago, which is the adoption of a real consumer facing Web3 inbox. We launched Dialect, the mobile app, which I mentioned is live on iOS and Google Play a few months ago, and we've seen explosive interest in part because of interest in receiving notifications around DApp use cases, and we're working with dozens of projects on that, and excited to continue expanding our developer tooling there. We're also working on some really exciting, we think brings mass consumer adoption to crypto, some creative and consumer-oriented new use cases that anyone in the audience who's interested to try this out, I'll mention our site where you can download Dialect. The first of those is NFT chat stickers, and this has been an incredibly exciting angle for broader adoption of consumer Web3 messaging that we've been exploring for the last couple of months. They are NFTs like any other, but the art is animated and expressive, and if you have them in your wallet, you can use them in chat. And in Dialect, the mobile app, we've created this incredibly fun, first-of-its-kind collector's experience around that. So anyone who wants to try that out or try out notifications and messaging in a Web3 native way, you can download Dialect at dialect.to, like to and from. That's our site, or search on the app stores for Dialect Wallet Chat. And we see these as all part of the same equation of really to get to that next level and have a really Web3 native messaging and notifications, we need to drive consumer adoption of an inbox. And to date, our users have minted, I think as of yesterday, over 350,000 of these NFT chat stickers. We're working with hundreds of our favorite artists in various ecosystems today. So would love for anyone to try that out. It's so much fun. It's been great to try to build the future here, and we love all feedback. So please reach out to us if you have any comments or feedback. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks to both of you for giving a little insight into your roadmaps. Just to everyone who's on this Twitter space, remember to follow everyone who's on this Twitter space. They're doing great work, and it's great to see everyone in the ecosystem. But now we will do our favorite part of the Move Mondays, where we do Q&A and we let people come up. Camille or Austin, can you bring some people up?
Yeah, and if you do want to jump up and just want to like riff or chat about anything, feel free to send a request. You don't have to have like specific questions. We just want to talk to you.
Meanwhile, I asked Jay earlier about NYC NFT. Oh, we got Akanya. Welcome, Akanya.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Oh, I just brought up a couple of people. I think we got Shamrock, and then we got Alex from Everstake. It seems like he's still connecting.
Ooh, all the classics, all the regular people. Let's Alnoki from Akanya. What would you like to say?
Cool, thank you. So I heard David talking about this new token V2 standard that I've been seeing on GitHub, and I can't tell how exactly the support for fungibility plays into interactions with the existing coin framework, and I was wondering if the core team could comment on that.
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. Just to be clear, things are ever evolving, and there's a lot of different ways in which things can take form. And so it's somewhat up to each group to kind of figure out what the right framework for them is. And so to break apart a few different problems, first of all, we've been working really hard to define what fungibility is. So you probably might have noticed there's another AIP that came out recently that I helped edit this weekend. It's on the front page. Give me 1 second so I can actually call out the correct number. And so that would be AIP 21. So if you take a look at that, that describes how you can make objects fungible. But taking a step back from there, part of your question is also, what does this mean for the broader ecosystem? What is interoperability? And so coin as it is today is about store. And effectively, you can put coins anywhere, which is a really powerful programming paradigm. But it's also a very slippery slope in that it doesn't really help with being able to count all coins in the ecosystem and actually effectively manage them. And when you think about what the value and purpose of these, they're kind of to represent an asset that is of a bigger piece, like a DAO or a centralized organization that's really looking to manage their assets, even if there are times being held by another individual, which Store, the capability Store and Move really worked against. And so moving into the realm of the objects and the fungible asset that we have there really focuses more on global accessibility, accountability. It simply simplifies both on-chain and off-chain management substantially, and actually gives you strong guarantees if you're the owner, the creator, or the manager of said coins. Now, in terms of the actual relationship between the two, we could imagine many different frameworks in which this could potentially work. The most trivial one, of course, being given that coin allows for store, you can make a trivial container for a coin that just literally is a object that allows you to put a coin into it. And now all of a sudden you've got this mobile object-based coin. But we can go further than that, and you can actually imagine a conversion bridge that will take in the coin V1 and output a fungible asset. And depending on where that fits inside the entire scope, that could be decentralized, where anybody could provide this conversion layer, much like you imagine bridges on networks today. But ideally, if we put up the right harnesses and frameworks, people are generally more excited about just kind of like burning their existing coins to produce new fungible assets. But the team is still really working hard on the nuances of what migration might even entail, what migration values might even be about, and working with folks like you, Al, on really nailing down to make sure that this is both valuable and a seamless experience for everybody.
Got it. Thanks for all the detail there. One thing that stuck out to me when I was looking through the spec was that it essentially seems like if all the coins were to be like force migrated to this new kind, that it would essentially give anyone the ability to freeze or burn assets even when they are in a wrapper like a store, which I think is one of the powerful reasons why people do use the coin V1. And also the simplicity is definitely really useful for things like AMMs and order books. So I was kind of, just thinking about how some kind of new standard might apply if people are trying to use it in applications like these.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, to your first point, ideally the correct frameworks are set up to where coins are managed correctly and effectively. And like that, there is an implication where if you give too much flexibility, then you prevent certain entities from being comfortable with working inside of the environment. I'll leave well enough alone on that aspect, but you can imagine certain entities demanding that they have the ability to control their assets on chain, especially when you think about like regulated assets. Not that we're speculating here about what may or may not come to the chain, but just to make sure that we have support for really anybody building effectively on top of Aptos. And the second aspect to what you brought up is actually really interesting, and that's where I'm very excited to start exploring what the implications are. And we're already starting to look at this. I actually threw together a GitHub issue yesterday on the topic of a new coin token swap, which is really just like object swap, and it's actually incredibly much more powerful than what we had in the store mechanism, where you effectively have to store things. When you move to objects, you just have to keep around the object ID and maybe an amount, and so that you get kind of like this neat, interesting kind of dynamic dispatch effort, which I think you probably have done a lot within what you built out with Iconia. But I think you can probably take advantage of a lot of the structures that you've already constructed with Iconia, and you just, instead of having the data actually stored within inside of your trees, you'll point to the objects off chain with saying this node on this tree has this amount of value, and it points to this specific asset. And so I think it should be actually a pretty seamless transition into the new phase with just as much programmability, if not even more programmability and functionality.
And we'll need some examples for that too.
And we'd love to work with you on getting those examples out there.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for all that detail. It's interesting to hear about how the desire for absolute control over assets from certain entities might introduce different assumptions in the ecosystem that could, for example, break things like fully backed guarantees from certain protocols. So I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, are you going to be in Austin for Consensus by any chance?
Not Austin, but Amsterdam. Okay,
well then when you're in Amsterdam, we'll grab some time and we'll whiteboard it out and make sure that we all end up with hopefully smiles on our face at the end.
Sounds good.
Hey, Alex, welcome. The other one.
You're muted.
Alex from Everstake, what's up?
Well, while we unmute.
Hey everyone, Austin, David, Greg, Yuri, and everyone here, Alex, Jane, Chris, it's nice to meet you, to see new people joining the blockchain. Yeah, I have a question for David or Greg. So we have, AP that we cannot talk about that is coming soon. But can you give like a brief insight in Aptos governance? Like, how do you think it's important? Will average people be able to participate in the governments in the future? Thank you.
Yeah, this is a really great question. It takes a lot of different forms and shapes. But let's start first and foremost. We built Aptos with the intention of it being decentralized. We have a decentralized organization governing it, and we want to empower more and more individuals to actually partake in that process. To date, anybody can submit an AIP or a proposal for an AIP through a GitHub issue and start getting feedback. We've already got a handful of ecosystem contributors in that space. And we've actually, to your points about increasing decentralization, you may have seen that delegation pools by Beware Labs is about to go live. I think the script is actually executable, and we can actually bring delegation into the framework by sometime in the next few days. And I don't want to talk too much about that aspect, except to say that a future extension of delegation is to actually allow those that are delegating to vote. And so once we enable that, that means effectively anybody that has a few APTs staking on the chain is also empowered to go in and vote for any of these governance proposals. And once we have that, I think we're going to have really one of the most pure and beautiful forms of democracy on chain. And I look forward to the chaos that brings.
Thank you, David.
And Shamrock, you look like you've got some positivity coming from you. What's up?
Yay, Shamrock Roll Aptos. What's up? What's up? Always glad to be here.
Is he saying something?
Actually is.
You're good. I hear you. Poor Greg doesn't get to benefit from your wise words.
Ouch, ouch. This is really sad because it's always nice to hear Greg's voice. Yeah. Actually, first of all, wanted to mention that it's always cool to listen to all the technical stuff. And even since I barely understand the most of the information, I'm always being hypnotized by what you're talking about. And since there is a topic like from Web2 to Web3, I have actually a question to our guests. Let's say you've created all your amazing tools, for people being onboarded from Web2 to Web3. But let's say all the majority of people don't really care about Web3 still. They're comfortable on Web2 because they have already everything they need. Do you have any sort of plans to improve this, let's say, mass adoption, or you will be just waiting slow and steady and patiently waiting for more people to jump into Web3?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a stab at this first. I think just being primarily an infrastructure provider, what we want to do is basically enable all the dApps building across all sorts of ecosystems, just like Aptos, through offering an enhanced user experience. They can actually increase their user base and thus, strive for mass adoption as well too. I think obviously more the bulk of the crowd is tailored towards Web 2. But there is a small shift that is occurring as well. And I think more and more retail, more and more normies will start to actually onboard into Web3 as the process to actually onboard gets a bit easier. And then also the user experience that we see in Web2 is also bridged across and brought across into Web3 as well too. So I think as we see those user experiences and those services onto Web3, it will also motivate and also just generally influence a lot of Web2 users to kind of transition over. But it's essentially just building the right infrastructure and tooling, empowering a lot of these developers to give the best user experience on the blockchain as possible. So that's essentially our mission statement. Our end goal is just through enhancing some of these UXs for projects, we can actually allow them to retain their user, increase their engagement, but also increase their user base as a whole.
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to kind of specify. So if I understand good, your main goal right now is actually user experience. So if or when the Web2 normies will decide actually to try this Web3, they will already possibly have some really necessary and comfortable experience, and it will be easier for them to be onboarded. Is it correct?
Yeah, I think that's generally correct, because right now in the space today, even if, let's say, you have a bulk of normies and retail investors or retail users transitioning into Web3, a lot of what the blocker that they experience is just the daunting and overwhelmingness of just actually being onboarded. And then when you're finally onboarded, you've made that wallet, you've set it up. Now you're hopping onto all these dApps. And you're still already overwhelmed and you're still already daunted by the process just to get up to that point. Once you're actually transacting on these dApps, you want to have a seamless and smooth user experience. So a lot of what we're seeing in the space today is that along those processes, users actually give up and step away from Web3. So as those processes actually improve and the user experience as a whole improves as well too, it will just further encourage a lot of these people trying out Web3 to actually stick around and use it for the long term, not just something that they can kind of, oh, I heard my friend bought an NFT and 10x their money, let me go and try it myself. And then the second they kind of hit a wall or a barrier, they kind of give up and quit and walk away. We want to reduce that, and through offering a higher and more enhanced user experience, that's what we're looking to do.
I love it. I don't want to cut anyone off. I just wanted to say one or two things because we are getting close on time, and I know Greg and I have a hard stop in 3 minutes. Two things. One, we are also going to be hosting another Twitter Space tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. PST. It's a little bit on the earlier side, but we are actually going to have Mo and Avery, the founders of Aptos, doing just like an ecosystem-wide all-hands. So if you're interested in talking to them, asking them questions, doing anything around that, we have a couple of things planned for everyone. So we will be pushing out a tweet from the Aptos account that's hosting this. Make sure to, remind yourself for that and jump in tomorrow. They have very busy schedules, so it's hard to get them on Twitter Spaces. So take advantage of this. The other thing I kind of wanted to ask here, I know they're not speaking, but I see the Tradeport Indexer team are here. Tradeport does like a trading interface for Aptos NFTs. I would love to see one of the notification platforms talk to them and get some stuff integrated. I think there's some really cool things that could happen with high frequency NFT trading happening there. So just as a side note, y'all should talk.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But wait, has anyone made NFTs? That's the next NFT. We should make NFTs.
They're asking to come up. Wait, what do they got? We'll see if we got a minute. We got 2 seconds left here.
Yeah, we have 2 minutes left. You brought up the Twitter Space tomorrow. I also want to bring up again for our favorite people who will be at Consensus, that we will be at Consensus. David, me, and Kevin will be there to answer all your technical questions.
Hey, I'll be there
eat some
too.
Burgers and stuff.
I'll be there too. Don't forget about me, Greg.
Oh, I guess Austin will be there. I didn't know that.
I guess. Indexer, what you got? We got a minute left here.
Yeah, Austin, this is Lewis with Indexer. I was just going to say there's an announcement coming out soon. So keep your eyes peeled.
Okay, cool. You guys are already on top of it. This is why I love everyone in the ecosystem.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Any last words, Chris? Notify. Where can folks find you? What do you want them to do?
Yeah, I would just say go try out our mobile first experience with messaging notifications. Our website is dialect.to. And like I said, we're live on iOS, Google Play. Try it out. Give us feedback. We love to talk to users. And if you're a project looking to integrate notifications, we have a whole suite of developer tools there. And feel free to DM me on Twitter, on Dialect, I'm Chris, or anywhere else, or reach out to the team Thanks so much for having us on the show. It's great. It's great to meet some folks.
Yeah. Also,
thanks for having you guys.
Also, just wanted to say a real quick thank you to the Aptos team just for having us on board. Again, we're really excited about the Move ecosystem and just Aptos as a whole, and really looking forward to pushing out many more integrations with some of the chats building on Aptos. Again, just to follow what we're doing at Notify Network, just follow us on our Twitter at Notify Network. You can also follow our co-founder Nimesh, who's also our CTO at Nimesh Amin, and myself as well at CrypticJ__. But yeah, again, it was a pleasure speaking here, guys, and looking forward to the next one.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll catch you next time on the next episode of Move Monday.